Welcome to this channel, where every story reveals hidden truths about love, family, and resilience. Here we tell the kinds of dramas that keep you on the edge of your seat and remind you how powerful a woman's voice can be. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a moment. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a reflection of choices, secrets, and the strength it takes to face them. If you're watching this, don't forget to subscribe and share where you're tuning in from. Stories like mine are proof that sometimes the people we love most can wound us the deepest, and that a woman can rise stronger than ever after betrayal. What happens when the woman who built her family's dreams is told she's no longer needed? Would you walk away or fight back? Amanda's words hit me like a slap across the face. She stood in my son's kitchen, the lace of her pristine wedding gown spilling from its hanger behind her like a smug reminder of tomorrow's spectacle. Her lips curled into that polished smile I had grown to despise. "The best gift you could give this family is to disappear," she said smoothly, like she was commenting on the weather. My son, Michael, nodded without meeting my eyes. His silence confirmed what I had dreaded for months. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest burned, as if all the years of sacrifice, every late-night shift, every penny saved, every dream postponed, were being reduced to nothing more than a nuisance. I'd spent the morning arranging flowers for their reception, the afternoon helping with final touches, and the evening listening to Amanda complain about everything, from the weather forecast to the caterer's choice of linens. And now she wanted me gone. "This is supposed to be our special weekend," Michael muttered finally, his tone cold and impatient. "Your negativity is ruining everything." Negativity. That was the word he chose. Not loyalty. Not sacrifice. Not devotion. Negativity. I forced my voice to stay calm. Where exactly am I supposed to go? Amanda shrugged, studying her manicured nails as though I were no more significant than a smudge of dirt. "A hotel. Your sister's. I don't care, Dorothy. As long as you're not here tomorrow." A tremor ran through me, but I held my head high. "This is my son's house, too," I reminded her. Michael cleared his throat. "Actually, it's more Amanda's house now. She's been handling the finances, making improvements. You just..." He waved a hand as if brushing away dust. "You just gave us some money once. Some money once. $87,000. My life savings. The Victorian home Robert and I had restored, with our bare hands. Sold so I could hand Michael and Amanda the down payment for their dream house. All dismissed as some money once." I looked around the kitchen, at the granite countertops I had helped choose. The custom cabinets my savings had paid for. The very walls echoing with memories of family dinners I had cooked. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not broke, shifted. Like a gear slipping into a new position. "You're right," I said softly. Amanda blinked, clearly expecting tears, begging. Maybe even a dramatic outburst she could later recount to her friends. Instead, I turned and walked upstairs to the guest room. Never my room. Always the guest room. Because guests eventually leave. I folded my clothes into a suitcase, pausing only to touch Robert's photograph on the nightstand. My late husband's kind eyes stared back at me, steady as ever. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm not going down without a fight." Downstairs, I heard laughter. Amanda showing off her dress on video chat. Michael opening champagne. They thought they were celebrating freedom from me. They didn't realize they were celebrating on the edge of a cliff. Within the hour, I carried my suitcase out the door. The night air was cool, the neighborhood quiet. But inside me, a storm had begun to brew. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house that had been bought with my sacrifice. It was no longer a home. It was a battlefield. And for the first time in years, I felt something powerful surge through me. Not despair, not defeat, control. I reached for my phone and dialed the one person I knew would understand. Margaret Chen, my lawyer. The call would set everything in motion. But in that moment, alone, betrayed, and standing at the crossroads of my life, I made a silent vow They might have asked me to disappear, but I was going to make sure they never forgot me. "Dorothy, it's Saturday evening." Margaret's voice came through the line, warm but cautious. "Is everything all right?" I swallowed the ache in my throat. "Margaret, I need you to pull the documentation on Michael and Amanda's house. All of it." A pause. I could hear her typing already. "What happened?" I told her. Every word. Amanda's ultimatum. Michael's agreement. Their casual dismissal of the money I had poured into their lives. The words spilled out of me, sharp and fast, until I was trembling with the effort of holding my composure. Margaret didn't interrupt. She never did, but the rhythm of her keystrokes quickened. When I finished, silence hung heavy between us. "Dorothy," she said finally, her voice low. "I've been worried this might happen. The way they've treated your investment. It's dangerous. My investment," I repeated. "They think it was just a gift. Some money once." "That's the point," Margaret replied. "It wasn't a gift. Do you not remember the paperwork we finalized after Robert passed?" I frowned, trying to recall. There had been so many documents, so many signatures in those first lonely months after my husband's death. "You insisted on protecting yourself," Margaret continued gently. "I drew up additional documents when you first expressed concerns about Amanda's spending habits. That $87,000 wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan. And your name is on the deed as co-owner." The words hit me harder than Amanda's slap of rejection. "Co-owner, yes, 35%. I nearly dropped the phone. My heart pounded so loud, it drowned out the crickets outside the car window. For the first time that evening, I felt the ground shift in my favor. "Margaret, are you absolutely certain?" "Dorothy, it's all binding. The mortgage company lists you as co-borrower. The deed shows your share. Amanda never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent over." She kept stalling. "But it doesn't matter. The law is clear." I turned my gaze back to the glowing windows of the house. Amanda twirled in her veil before a laptop camera, no doubt showing her mother the final fitting. Michael poured champagne like a man without a care in the world. They had no idea their perfect little dream home was built on ground I still owned. "What happens?" I asked carefully. "If I wanted to sell my share?" Margaret hesitated, then answered, "As a co-owner, you'd have every right to force a sale. Michael and Amanda would have the first option to buy you out. But if they can't afford it, the house goes on the market. The proceeds are split according to ownership." A slow smile spread across my face. For once, the power wasn't in their hands. It was in mine. "Margaret," I said, steady now. "I want a notice of intent to sell prepared. First thing Monday morning." There was a long silence. "Dorothy, are you sure about this? This will escalate things." "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness, the glow of the kitchen window still mocking me. Amanda laughed with a friend on her video call. Oblivious, Michael clinked his glass, celebrating what he thought was freedom. They believed they had cast me aside. Instead, they had handed me the sharpest weapon of all, ownership. And if they thought that was the end of my fight, they were sorely mistaken, because the next call I made wasn't to Margaret. It was to the Sunset Gardens Country Club. "Good evening, Sunset Gardens. This is Jessica speaking." I drew in a deep breath, steadying my voice. "Jessica, this is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to speak with your catering manager about tomorrow's wedding reception." Her tone brightened. "Oh, Mrs. Mitchell, the big day's tomorrow, isn't it? How can I help you?" "Yes," I said, my voice calm, almost serene. "About that? I need to cancel the reception." The line went dead quiet, then erupted in protest. "Cancel?" "Ma'am, it's less than 24 hours away. The food is prepped, the staff scheduled. I understand." I cut in. "Firm now, and I am prepared to pay the cancellation fees. But the contract is in my name, under my card. I have the authority to make changes." "Cancel everything." Through the window, Amanda slipped the veil over her head, giggling into her webcam. The happy couple made it very clear, I whispered, more to myself than to Jessica, that my involvement is no longer welcome. So I'm simply honoring their wishes. Within an hour, I was checked into a quiet hotel across town, a plate of room service pasta steaming before me. For the first time in years, I wasn't anxious, wasn't second-guessing, wasn't trying to keep peace at the cost of my dignity. For the first time in years, I felt satisfied. Tomorrow, when Amanda and Michael walked into Sunset Gardens expecting chandeliers and fine dining, they'd find an empty ballroom and 200 confused guests. And that would be only the beginning. The hotel room was quiet, almost too quiet, as I pushed the half-eaten pasta aside. My phone buzzed against the nightstand at 11. Word I haven't pay. I didn't even have to look at the caller ID. What did you do? Amanda's voice screeched so loud I pulled the phone away from my ear. I muted the TV and answered evenly. I honored your request, Amanda. You wanted me to disappear. So I did. You canceled our reception. Her pitch was frantic, almost hysterical. 200 people are expecting dinner tomorrow. 200. The country club just called us. Michael's voice cut in, harsh and desperate. Mom, this is insane. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're upset about sleeping arrangements. I let a pause hang between us, savoring the moment. I didn't cancel your wedding. You can still get married. I simply canceled the reception. The one I was paying for. The one that cost me $14,000. Silence. A stunned, gaping silence. They'd never asked about costs. Never considered where the money came from. For them, it had all been magic. Flowers, bands, photographers, dinners. They had believed in an endless fountain called Mom. Amanda's voice came back shaky, almost small. 14,000. Yes, 14,000 you never lifted a finger to earn. Did you think fairy tale weddings just appeared out of thin air? Michael sputtered. But we can't tell people there's no reception. Amanda's family flew in from California. Everyone will think, I interrupted smoothly. They'll think you're resourceful adults who can solve their own problems. McDonald's caters now, I hear. Amanda burst into sobs. Ugly, choking sobs. Months ago, I would have rushed to comfort her, to soothe her tantrums. Tonight, they were nothing more than noise. How could you do this to us? She wailed. We trusted you. Trusted me. My voice sharpened. You literally told me the best gift I could give your family was to disappear. I'm simply complying. Michael tried again, softer this time, his tone pleading. Mom, please, we can talk about this like adults. Come back, and we'll work this out. The house where I'm not welcome. The house where my presence ruins everything. I shook my head, though he couldn't see me. No, Michael, that conversation is over. I ended the call. My hands trembled, but not with fear, with power. By Sunday morning, I woke to 37 missed calls and 41 text messages. I ignored them all. Instead, I ordered breakfast. Bacon, eggs, coffee strong enough to cut through the weight in my chest. I spread the newspaper across the tray like a civilized woman, not the cast-off nuisance Amanda wanted me to be. At 9 a.m., a knock rattled my hotel door. Through the peephole, Michael stood in his wrinkled tuxedo shirt, looking as though he hadn't slept. His eyes were red-rimmed, desperate. Mom, please, we need to talk. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day? That's the problem. He ran a hand through his hair. Amanda's locked herself in the bathroom. She won't come out. Her mother's threatening to fly home. The whole thing is falling apart. I tilted my head. I'm sorry to hear that. I truly hope you find a solution. Mom, you destroyed our wedding. No, son. My tone was calm, steady. I removed my financial support. There's a difference. He pushed past me into the room. I let him. Sometimes you need to let people bury themselves in their own words. This is insane, he muttered. Over what? A misunderstanding. Sit down, Michael. Something in my voice made him obey. I stood over him, seeing not the man in his 40s, but the little boy who had once begged me to chase away monsters under his bed. Now he had become one of them. This isn't about sleeping arrangements. This is about respect, gratitude, treating the woman who built your life as more than a wallet with legs. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. When was the last time you called me just to talk? To ask about my health, my day? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you? When was the last time you treated me like your mother instead of your personal bank. His silence was the answer. I pressed on. In the past year alone, how much money do you think I've given you and Amanda? I don't know, he muttered. A few thousand here and there. 37,000, I snapped. 37,000 in emergencies. But, add that to the 87,000 for your house, and that makes $124,000. More than most people earn in 2 years. And how much of it have you paid back? Michael's face drained of color. We were always planning to... No. You were planning vacations. Amanda was shopping for cars. Neither of you ever planned to repay a dime. He dropped his head into his hands. What do you want from me, Mom? The shift was complete. Hours ago, they couldn't wait to be rid of me. Now they wanted to bargain. I want exactly what you offered me last night. To disappear from your family. And I'll take my money with me when I go. I didn't tell him yet about the papers Margaret had dug up. About my 35% stake in his precious house. That revelation could wait, because watching him squirm, watching him realize for the first time that actions have consequences, that was almost enough for now. Almost. Michael sat slumped in the armchair of my hotel room, wringing his hands as though he could squeeze out an escape. I let the silence stretch, heavy and suffocating, until his gaze finally lifted to meet mine. Mom, please, he said, his voice raw. We can fix this. We'll pay you back. I folded my arms across my chest. Pay me back with what, Michael? You and Amanda have been living beyond your means for years. Without my money, your lifestyle collapses. His lips parted, but no words came. He was trapped in the truth, cornered by numbers he had never bothered to add up. You think I don't notice the little things? I pressed on. The utility bills mysteriously paid. The grocery money that appears when Amanda is short. The car repairs I cover. The credit card payments I slip in. You've conditioned me to believe my only value is financial. That ends now. Michael's face was pale, his voice barely a whisper. So what are you saying? I drew a long breath. This was the moment. The turning point I had been waiting for. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and scrolled to Margaret's email. With a calmness that surprised even me, I laid it all on the table. I own 35% of your house. Michael froze, blinking as if I had spoken another language. What? You heard me? 35%. My 87,000 wasn't a gift. It was a loan. My lawyer made sure my name was on the deed. I'm a co-owner. His body stiffened. That's impossible. Amanda would have had to sign. She was supposed to. She never did. Margaret filed the papers anyway. Your mortgage lists me as co-borrower. The deed shows my stake. It's all binding. His jaw slackened. You planned this. Oh, sweetheart, I said softly, leaning forward so he couldn't look away. If I'd planned this, I wouldn't have paid for your wedding. I would have pulled the plug months ago. No, Michael, this isn't a scheme. This is protection. And it's about time you understood that protection comes with power. He stood abruptly, pacing the small hotel room, tugging at his hair. We can't afford to buy you out. The house is worth at least $300,000 now. 35%? That's over $100,000. I allowed myself a thin smile. I know. I'm good at math. That's why I have money. And you're always broke. Mom, please. His voice cracked. We can work something out. A payment plan, maybe. Monthly installments. At what interest rate? With what collateral? I asked sharply. You already owe me $37,000 in emergency loans. Why should I trust you with another 100? Michael sank back into the chair, defeated. His shoulders slumped, his eyes glassy. This will destroy us. No, Michael. This will force you to live within your means for the first time in your life. The room was thick with tension. So thick I could almost hear Amanda's sobbing echo from miles away. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a razor's edge. You and Amanda wanted me to disappear. Fine. But when I disappear, I'm taking my money with me. And the house, his head snapped up. You wouldn't... Not the house. I tilted my head. Try me. The hotel phone rang suddenly, breaking the silence like a gunshot. I picked it up slowly. Mrs. Mitchell. This is Jessica from Sunset Gardens. I have the bride's mother on another line. She's asking if we can reinstate today's reception. She said she'll pay all the costs if you allow it. I glanced at Michael, whose face lit with desperate hope. I let the pause linger, savoring his pleading eyes. That's very generous of her, I told Jessica, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Please confirm the cancellation stands. Jessica hesitated. Are you sure? Very sure. When I hung up, Michael's expression crumbled. Mom, please. Amanda's mother is willing to step in. Why won't you just... Because, Michael, I cut him off. This isn't about a party. This is about respect. Amanda's mother may be willing to throw money at problems. I'm done doing that. He fell silent, his face pale and lined with panic. For the first time in years, my son looked like a child again. Lost, frightened, without answers. You better start looking at apartments, I said, my tone final. Because one way or another, this house situation is about to change. Michael stared at me as though I'd ripped open the floor beneath his feet, and for once it felt good to watch him fall. By the time the church bells chimed 2 o'clock, the wedding guests were already whispering. 200 well-dressed people stood awkwardly on the manicured lawn of Sunset Gardens, clutching their invitations and wondering why there were no servers carrying champagne flutes. No scent of hors d'oeuvres drifting from the kitchen. No sign of the promised banquet. Inside, Amanda stood in the lobby of the country club in full bridal regalia. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. The veil she had flaunted the night before now clung to her like a shroud. They cancelled it, she kept repeating, her voice cracking like glass. She cancelled our wedding. It's not the wedding, Amanda, Michael muttered, trying to calm her as the guests looked on, puzzled and restless. It's just the reception. Just the reception, Amanda shrieked. Do you know what 200 people are saying about us right now? Do you know what this does to our reputation? I wasn't there, of course. I was in my hotel room, sipping tea, watching the local news coverage of what the reporter delicately called a sudden cancellation at Sunset Gardens. The camera zoomed in on Amanda, crying on the steps, her perfect gown crumpled against the stone like a fallen angel. For once, I didn't feel pity. I felt clarity. The phone rang again. Michael's number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. Amanda's mother this time. Against my better judgment, I answered. Dorothy, came the cool, steady voice of Barbara Worth. May I have a word? I expected fury. Condemnation. Instead, Barbara's tone carried something sharper. Disappointment. Your daughter, I said slowly, told me the best gift I could give her family was to disappear. I obliged. I know what she said, Barbara sighed. And I don't blame you for reacting. But Dorothy, can we meet? Woman to woman. Curiosity got the better of me. An hour later, Barbara sat across from me in the hotel restaurant. Perfectly coiffed, elegant in her pearl necklace. She radiated the kind of composure only decades of social crises could teach. I want to thank you, she said. I blinked. Thank me for showing my daughter who she really is? I studied her carefully, searching for sarcasm. But Barbara's eyes were steady. I've been worried about Amanda for years, she continued, stirring her coffee with deliberate grace. The entitlement, the tantrums, the way she treats people she thinks are beneath her. I kept hoping marriage would mature her. Clearly it hasn't. I didn't know what to say. For years I had felt like the villain in Amanda's stories. The meddling mother-in-law. The obstacle. Now her own mother was sitting across from me, acknowledging the truth I had lived with in silence. I even offered to pay for the reception, Barbara went on. Not because I approved, but because I felt responsible for the guests. But you were right to refuse. Amanda needed to face consequences for once in her life. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Don't rescue them, Dorothy. Don't cushion their fall. It's the only way they'll ever grow. Her words lingered long after she left. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone in this battle. That night, as the chaos of the ruined wedding unfolded across the news, my phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. Dorothy, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Virginia Beach Police Department. We received a report about potential elder financial abuse in your family. We'd like to schedule a welfare check. My blood ran cold. Amanda and Michael had played their next card. If they couldn't control me with guilt, they would try with the law. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't yet imagine, was that I was prepared. Because this wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was war. Monday morning sunlight poured through the blinds of the police station, sharp and unflinching. I sat across from Detective Rodriguez, a neatly dressed man in his 40s, whose calm eyes told me he had seen countless family dramas spill over into his office. "Mrs. Mitchell," he began gently, "we received a call suggesting you may be experiencing cognitive decline." The caller was concerned about possible financial elder abuse by your family. I almost laughed. The irony was so thick it threatened to choke me. "Detective, I can assure you my mind has never been sharper, and if anyone is financially abusing me, it isn't strangers. It's my son and his wife." He raised an eyebrow, his pen poised over a notepad. "Can you elaborate?" I slid a folder across the desk. Inside were bank statements, check copies, and wire transfer records. Over the last 3 years, I've given Michael and Amanda $124,000. That includes $37,000 in so-called emergencies. Add to that the $87,000 I handed over for their down payment. All of it documented. Rodriguez flipped through the papers, his brows knitting as the numbers mounted. "And here," I added, pulling out a second folder, "are the legal documents my lawyer prepared. They show I'm listed as a co-borrower on the mortgage and own 35% of the house." He took his time studying the deed. "This is substantial, Mrs. Mitchell. Most people who are exploited don't keep records this detailed." "That's because I wasn't being exploited blindly," I said coolly. I knew what I was doing. I simply allowed it to continue too long. And the moment I pulled back, they decided I must be senile. I pressed play on my phone and let him hear Amanda's 3 a.m. voicemail. "Dorothy, this is insane behavior. Normal people don't destroy their families' lives over hurt feelings. We're worried about you. Maybe you need help. Michael thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown." Rodriguez listened carefully, his face unreadable. "Does that sound like concern, Detective? Or does it sound like manipulation?" He closed his notebook. "It sounds like manipulation." Relief spread through me like a tide. After another 20 minutes of questions about my finances, my independence, my daily life, he leaned back. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'll be closing this case as unfounded, but I want you to know you did the right thing by keeping documentation, and I'll give you some resources in case you want further protection." "Thank you, Detective," I said, standing tall. "But I think I've got the situation well in hand." When I stepped outside, the air felt cleaner, sharper. For the first time, it wasn't just me against Amanda's games. I had official confirmation. I wasn't the one in danger. They were. As I drove back toward my hotel, my phone rang again. Michael's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mom," he said, his voice tight. "The police just called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check." "That's right," I replied, "because I'm not the one being abused." A pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you and Amanda have been draining my resources for years. And the detective now has the proof." His breath hitched. "Are you threatening us?" "I'm informing you," I said evenly, "that your tactics won't work anymore. The games are over." "Mom, please," Michael begged. "Let's talk. Let's meet and work this out." "We will," I said. "At Margaret Chen's office. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bring Amanda. And bring a realistic proposal for how you're going to handle the house situation." "What kind of proposal?" "The kind that acknowledges I own 35% of your home. Either you buy me out, or we sell. Those are your options." I hung up before he could answer, a strange calm settling over me. For the first time in years, my son needed something from me more than I needed anything from him, and I intended to make the most of it. Margaret Chen's office smelled faintly of leather and old wood, the kind of space designed to make people sit up straighter and face the truth. I sat at one end of the long conference table, a folder of documents neatly stacked before me. Margaret, composed and razor-sharp as ever, arranged her notes with the precision of a surgeon preparing for an operation. The door opened 15 minutes late. Michael shuffled in first, his tie crooked, his shoulders sagging as though he carried the weight of the world. Amanda followed, her eyes swollen, her makeup barely concealing the blotches of a week's worth of tears. For once the sharp-tongued bride looked small, fragile, stripped of her veneer of control. "Dorothy," she began immediately, her voice trembling. "I owe you an apology. A real one. I said things I didn't mean." I studied her for a long moment. "Thank you. That's a start." Margaret wasted no time. She spread the house documents across the table with practiced efficiency. "Here are the facts. Dorothy contributed $87,000 to the down payment. The mortgage lists her as co-borrower. The deed shows her ownership at 35%. Michael leaned over the papers as if sheer willpower could change the ink. "We didn't know." "You would have," Margaret cut in crisply. "If Amanda had signed the acknowledgement forms. I sent them 3 times. Amanda flushed. "I was busy with wedding planning. For 3 years." Margaret arched an eyebrow. The silence that followed was deafening. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. "The question now is not whether I have a stake in the house. The question is how we move forward." Both of them looked at me with something close to desperation. "We're listening," Michael said. "You have 2 options," I said clearly. "Option 1, buy out my 35% at current market value. That comes to a little over $105,000. Option 2, we sell the house and split the proceeds." Amanda's face went pale. "We don't have that kind of money." "Then you'd better start packing," I replied coolly. Michael's voice cracked. "There has to be another way." Margaret folded her hands. "Legally, there isn't." "Dorothy is being generous, even offering you a choice." I let them squirm for a moment before speaking again. "There is a compromise. You can buy me out for $75,000 instead of $105, but only under strict conditions." Their heads snapped up. Hope flickered in their eyes. "What conditions?" Michael asked cautiously. "First," I said, locking eyes with Amanda, "you get a job within 60 days, and you hold it for at least 2 years. Amanda's mouth fell open. "A job? But You're 39 years old with a college degree." I interrupted. "There is no reason you can't contribute to your household." Amanda flushed crimson but said nothing. "Second," I continued, "you sell one of your cars. The proceeds go toward paying down debt." Michael rubbed his face. "That's doable." "Third," I said, my voice sharpening, "you stick to a realistic budget. No restaurants, no unnecessary shopping, no new debt. For 2 years." Amanda shook her head violently. That's like living in prison." "No," I said evenly. "That's called living within your means. Something you should have learned years ago." Michael's voice was tentative. "And how would you monitor that?" "Monthly financial check-ins with Margaret," I said without hesitation. "You'll provide bank statements, credit reports, proof of income. If you break the agreement, the full $105 becomes due immediately." Amanda's chair scraped back. "This is humiliating," she cried. "No, Amanda," I said softly but firmly. "Humiliating is telling the woman who built your life to disappear. This is accountability." The room went quiet. Margaret tapped her pen once, then set it down. "It's a fair offer." "More than fair." Michael took Amanda's trembling hands. They whispered furiously to each other, their voices tight and strained. At last, Michael turned back to me, his face ashen. "We accept. All of it." Amanda's lips pressed into a thin line. "Yes, we accept." Margaret immediately began drafting the agreement, her pen gliding across the page like a blade carving stone. When she slid the papers across the table, I watched my son and daughter-in-law sign away, not just their financial freedom, but the illusion that they could live forever on my sacrifices. As I signed my own name, I felt no guilt, no hesitation, only a deep, resonant calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't the woman they used. I wasn't the wallet they leaned on. I was Dorothy Mitchell, and I was in control. 6 months later, the spring sun spilled over the walking trail outside my new apartment in a senior community. The air carried the scent of fresh soil and blossoms from the community garden where I had signed up to help with planting next week. For the first time in decades, I was waking up in a space that was truly mine. 2 bedrooms, a balcony overlooking the pool, and silence that belonged only to me. My phone rang. The caller ID read, "Amanda." I hesitated before answering, bracing myself. "Dorothy!" Her voice came steadier than I expected. I got the promotion." I sat down slowly at my kitchen table. "The promotion? At the dental office," she said quickly. I started as a receptionist. Now I'm office manager. They said I'm organized, dependable. I've never heard anyone call me that before. For the first time in years, I heard a genuine laugh escape her throat. It wasn't cruel or condescending. It was nervous and proud. "That's wonderful, Amanda," I said softly. "How do you feel?" "Exhausted," she admitted, then chuckled. "But proud and different. I never realized how hard it is to earn money, to actually save for something. I guess I never understood what you sacrificed for us." There was a pause, a silence heavy with unspoken regrets. "Dorothy, I owe you a real apology. Not the panicked one at Margaret's office. I was horrible to you for years. I treated you like an ATM and then blamed you for wanting something in return. I told myself you were dramatic, but the truth is, I was entitled. I was cruel." I set my coffee cup down, surprised at how much her words stirred something in me. "What changed your mind?" "Working for every dollar, watching bills stack up, realizing $100 isn't just paper. It's the hours of your life." It humbled me. I could hear Michael's voice in the background. Amanda continued quietly. "He's getting there too. He still thinks you were harsh, but he admits we needed it. We're better now. We cook at home. We take walks instead of shopping. It feels different, real." For the first time, hope flickered in my chest. "Dorothy," she said timidly, Would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just homemade spaghetti and conversation. No money talk. The old me, the woman desperate to keep peace, would have said yes immediately. But the new me had learned to guard her boundaries. "I'd like that," I said finally. "But let's start small. Lunch, somewhere public. Baby steps." "Of course," Amanda replied quickly. "Whatever you're comfortable with." After we hung up, I sat quietly, reflecting on how far we had all come. Amanda had a job. Michael was forced to grow up. And me, I was finally free. A text buzzed across my phone. It was from Barbara Worth. "Heard about Amanda's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her." I typed back, "Thank you for not bailing her out." Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no. I had spent 3 years being their safety net, catching them every time they stumbled. And in doing so, I had robbed them of the chance to find their own strength. When I finally pulled that net away, they learned to fly, not because they wanted to, because they had to. Outside my window, the sun dipped low, turning the sky gold. Tomorrow I was having lunch with Frank, a kind man I'd met at book club who made me laugh harder than I had in years. At 68, I was learning what it felt like to be valued not for what I could give, but for who I was, and that, I realized, was worth more than every dollar I had ever handed away. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Stories like this remind us that behind every closed door lies a truth waiting to be revealed. And sometimes the quietest voices carry the greatest strength. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Your support helps keep these stories alive and brings more voices to light. And remember, every ending is just the beginning of another story. Stay tuned, because the next one may surprise you even more.